Atop a desert world, a dead world, an archaeotech dig has gone awry. The Necrons, the undead, the ancients rise. Skari of the Cabal of the Deadly Mist, on a quest to find liquid flesh, a recipe that, if taken, could rend his DNA. The properties of liquid metal of the Necron tier. Follow us in this campaign, a 6-game series, as the Dark Eldar face the Necron threat. Welcome to Planetfall, Mission 1 of our 6-game series, featuring the Necrons and the Drukhari. So Mission 1, we've got 1,500 points of Dark Eldar versus 1,500 points of Necrons. Necrons! So, the defender, so the Necrons, have placed all the terrain. They've placed one fortification. We are counting that derelict monolith as an Imperial Bastion. So we're using the Imperial Bastion rules, which means it can hold units, it has heavy bolters essentially on the side, and it's 20 wounds at toughness 9. So tough little guy right there. There is an objective inside. We also have an objective near that Manufactorum section, an objective near this Crash to Killer, an objective in the defensive line, an objective by the crashed Rhino, and an objective just in the open somewhere, because Necrons dig and they go down there. So the story here involves the Dark Eldar, Archon Skari of the Cabal of the Deadly Mist, searching for the liquid flesh, which is a concoction that when he drinks it, it will fuse his DNA with properties of liquid living metal, which means that he will be very strong against like assassination attempts in the Dark City, and you know he's looking for a rise to power. So we're gonna look over the armies while we deploy. Brian playing John. Say hi.
Hello.
We've played before. You have seen his legions of Necron warriors face off against my Dark Eldar, but he's brought something a little different. So we'll also take a look at his army as well. So as we dive into this, he decided to use a stratagem that prevented me from picking that backside for my tabletop drop zone edge. So I picked this side. But most of my army flies are as infantry, which means they get put in orbit and they can deep strike, as this is a planetary assault. So without further ado, here goes the quest for liquid gold. On to the armies. The Necron tier during this ancient Battle of Doom. The first of the Planet Strike, or the campaign missions of 6 missions that we're playing. And we've got your army, the Necrons, the dynasty of your own making. Let's see what it is that you have brought for this epic showdown.
Today we'll be facing the Anomanek dynasty, led by the 2 nameless and factionless leaders, Anrakir the Traveler, who is, and Caesaris, Illuminor Caesaris. Anrakir the Traveler will be the warlord of this indomitable force. He will be taking his veil of darkness, and he comes with an enduring will. He'll be followed by his loyal Golden Guard, his Lich Guard, carrying their war scythes, ready to cleave any threat to their home world. They also come with plenty of firepower in their loyal warriors. We have 40 warriors split into 3 squads, 1 20-man, 2 10, and 10 Tesla-wielding immortals, ready to electrocute any foes that touch their sacred soil. Backing them up with heavy support, we have 2 heavy destroyers and a Doomsday Ark ready to burn down any resistance that they may find.
And that is 1,500 points of the Anomanek dynasty, the dynasty of no names, because they vanquish everything, and they're mysterious. So we're playing Planet Strike Mission 1, Planetfall, as the Dark Eldar fall on to the Necron tier world in search of liquid flesh. Out of the dark city sweep the cabal of the deadly mist, supported by the succubus and witches of the cult of the bloodied blade. They are to face the Anomanek dynasty, the dynasty of no names. This is an ancient foe to Archon's Skari, direct Eldari lineage, and he has learned in the tomes of his spire that they hold the key to an elixir that, when consumed, will fuse his DNA with the properties of liquid metal. In the Dark City, being able to survive assassination attempt is of paramount importance. So he's assembled a Planet Strike force ready to invade the Anomanek dynasty's homeworld. In this mission, we shall see Archon Skari and his closest retinue face off against the Necron threat. So let's look at the forces that he has brought with him to start off this 6-game campaign series. We have Archon Skari. He's brought his trusty blaster. We have the succubus, also known as G, with the parasite's kiss. In the elite's choice, we have his court of the Archon, most trusted servants, a Lamian, a Slith, an Urgul, and a Medusa to catalogue everything and store the pain in its brain fruits. We also have his cohort of Incubi with their Clavex. They have brought a Raider to deep strike in with. 20 Cablite warriors, a coterie that has come on the real space raid with a couple of blasters and a couple of splinter cannons. The Cult of the Bloodied Blade has brought a 17-man witch unit with 2 Hydra gauntlets and also a shard net and impaler ready to jump out of the webway. A Razorwing jet fighter meant to provide air support, while there are 10 Helions intent on taking trophies and prizes back to the Dark City. A Ravager in support, ready to crack open the hardest Necron tier defenses, while 2 units of Reaver jet bikes from the cult also provide reconnaissance and fast-moving firepower. This is 1,500 points of Drukhari. Archon Skari is the warlord, and he has eternal hatred as his warlord trait. The Necrons have revealed themselves. The Dark Eldar scans reveal the Necrons in such defensive positions. 10-man warrior unit by that objective. 10-man warrior unit by that objective. 20-man warrior unit by that objective. Nothing by that objective. An objective in the Bastion. Inside the Bastion, 10 Immortals, the Traveler, the Diviner, right? Is that his name?
The Illuminor.
The Illuminor. Illuminor Caesar, Ceres or whatever. There's silly names that I can never remember or pronounce properly. Doomsday Ark, sitting on a perch. That's funny. And then we've got 2 heavy destroyers sitting in there because they're infantry, so they're just sitting in the Bastion. So we've got 1,500 points of Necrons deployed. Now it is time for the Firestorm. So I get to put 6 markers down, numbered 1 through 6, and whatever I roll, I'm going to get D3 plus 2, thanks to the building, rolls. And when I roll a number on the dice, it's going to be the unit within 3 inches takes D6 mortal wounds. And there's a stratagem that he can use that denies like mortal wounds and things like that. And he can also put a stratagem to make sure that his monolith can survive mortal wounds on a 4+. So, the Bastion. Okay, let's see what happens.
Got myself a new dice brick.
So the Firestorm, very cool. New dice is always good. But the Firestorm fired and killed 5 models out of the 20-man blob unit. I did use 2 command points to get an extra D3, but I rolled a 1 and a 2, so I got 3. So I got 5 Firestorm attacks. And I took 4 wounds off of the Doomsday Arc as a Firestorm strike hit right next to it as well. But I also tried to use a Planet Quake bomb. So it's 3 command points, and then I rolled again, and every unit within 2d6 inches of that marker took the mortal wounds. And I rolled the 6, which was right here, like the furthest away from all the concentration of troops. So my Dark Eldar firing target priority was garbage. And then I rolled a 1 for the mortal wounds. So 1 Necron warrior just went bleh. After spending all those massive command points on a giant... I guess he went for like a virus bomb or something, you know, and Necrons are like impervious to that sort of thing. Okay, so now we're moving on to turn 1. Now, all my stuff is in orbit. So I have to roll for reserves, and based on them coming in, is on a 3+. Now, it's at the end of the movement phase that this technically happens, so I'm moving. This is my first movement phase. But as we move in, we've got 6 objectives. We get 1 point for Slay the Warlord, and we get 3 points for each objective you control at the end of the game. And this is a 6-turn game. So, let's move on to turn 1. John, have a fantastic game. I hope you enjoy this 6-game series. You excited?
I'm pumped.
I am so pumped. This is going to be so much fun. We're going to build a really cool narrative. And then we'll talk about tactics and things, you know, when it comes to deployment and little things like that. But this is definitely designed to just have a good couple hours rolling some dice and creating some cool stories. Moving on to Dark Eldar turn 1. I have Dark Lances and Blasters too. Don't forget the Blasters. Okay, so end of the first movement phase, I'm going to start rolling for some reserve rolls. Old school style. Okay, so Razorwing Jet Fighter. Does not arrive. Ravager. Cocked dice. Does not arrive. Hellions, 10 of them. Arrive! Hooray! The Raider that has my Court of the Archon and Incubi and Archon Skari. Is he impetuous to get to the fight? No. The Succubus. She does arrive. You know, might as well roll for her 17 witches. They arrive too!
Oh, yay.
20 Cabalite Warriors in a big blob. They arrive. And then I've got 2 units of Reaver jet bikes with a blaster in each. They arrive. So, 2 Reavers, the Hellions, the Succubus, the Cavalry Warrior Blob, and the Witches have all decided to swarm the battlefield out of the webway. Dark Eldar turn 1. The Planetfall was brutal. I had the +1 attack Reaver jet bikes arrive here within 6 inches of that 10-man Cabalite Warrior squad that used to be there, combined with a 20-man Cabalite Warrior unit. Then the Hellions had deep struck here. The 3-man +1 toughness jet bike unit deep struck there. 17 witches deep struck right here. And then we had the Succubus in the back here. So she failed her charge. The witches charged in and killed a few of them. They've lost 5 models.
10.
Well, yeah, but 5 in the actual turn.
Oh, yes.
Right? And then we had the Hellions and the Reavers charge in and kill 6 models out of that unit. So we got some morales happening there. And then I blew that unit off the board as the Hellions finished them off with some shooting. But that unit of 20 Cabalite Warriors is mean. There's a lot of shots that are coming out of that unit with 2 blasters, 2 splinter cannons, and all the rapid-fire rifles. And I did put 5 wounds on the Doomsday Arc with a combination of blaster fire. So, it seems like the Dark Kin have have the advantage at the moment, but most of the enemy army is still unengaged. The Lich Guard, the Immortals, and the 2 characters as well as Doomsday Ark still being alive. And remember, it's the end of the game that matters. So, will the Witch Cult take the day, or will Archon Skari have to come from his barge, disembark, and face off against his nemesis in combat? On to the Necron first turn. Let us know what you would do in a situation like this, surrounded by enemies. What would you advise? How would you proceed? Necron, turn 1. What a development. The warlord for the Necrons stepped out of his portal, essentially, the Bastion here, and Veil of Darkness, the 17-man unit, because a lot of them came back with reanimation protocols, over here. Combined shooting shot the Hellions down to a man after morale, and combined with his trusty Necrons, he charged into my succubus and murdered her in close combat. The Tesla Immortals did fire into the witches. Some good feel no pain rolls from the Power from Pain really kept the witches in the fight. The Lich Guard have charged in, but found it hard to get through their invulnerable saves in combat as they're dodging back and forth. And then I used 2 command points to hold the witches in combat as they did cut down 1 of the Lich Guard's number. Meanwhile, we had these warriors fall back from combat after a few regenerated. There's 6 left. And the Doomsday Ark has advanced, and combined shooting did kill about 7 warriors out of that unit. 8 warriors out of 20 with morale and shooting. So we're moving on to Dark Eldar turn 2. It does not seem so bleak for the Necrons at this time. Okay, so we've got 3 units left to arrive from the orbital strike. We've got the Raider with Archon Skari and his Incubi. Do they arrive? They do! Does the Razorwing arrive to provide fire support? It does! Does the Ravager arrive with its lances ready to crackle dark energy? It does! So the Dark Eldar army will be committed to the assault. Dark Eldar turn 2, and the Planetfall battle rages on as the jet bikes have advanced at full speed to support the beleaguered Dark Eldar flank. The +1 attack jet bikes charged in, and they killed 1 Lich Guard. And then the Witches killed another Lich Guard and put a wound on another one. But he killed the casualties that were close to the jet bikes, and now the jet bikes will be targeted by some shooting. The +1 toughness jet bikes charged into the big unit of warriors, killed 4 of them in combat, lost 1 in return after we had the enemy warlord, the Necron, come in and cut down his foe with his war scythe. Archon Skari and his retinue has deep struck, ready to pounce on the enemy warlord, while the Razorwing jet fighter has arrived and its missiles, strength 7 missiles, re-rolling wounds, took out the last wounds on the Doomsday Ark, after some blasters did some damage. The Ravager, on the other hand, came all the way to this flank to threaten Objective 6 if the Necrons decide to push into the main Dark Eldar flank. So we're moving on to Necron turn 2. The Witches have lost a few of their number to the Lich Guard, but all morales have held strong at the end of this turn. So moving on to turn 2. I can't believe it's turn 2. Necron turn 2. So the Lich Guard cut 3 of the Witches down and did lose 2 of their number after 1 had returned, and the Witches went absolutely bonkers. I've got a Hydra Gauntlet and a agonizing. They did 4 out of 4 wounds, and he failed all 4 of his saves. It was incredible, like, it was crazy rolling. Like, crazy bad, crazy good. The jet bikes got cut down in this combat, while a lot of shooting from inside the monolith saw 2 of these Reaver jet bikes die. And 2 heavy destroyers failed to wound the raider. Terrible. And 1 wound is put on the raider from sporadic fire. So we're moving on to Dark Eldar, turn 3. Let us know what you think down below as a narrative is forged. Archon Skari is now going to go straight for the enemy warlord with his retinue to try and seek him out and best him in hand-to-hand combat, and hopefully his shadow field survives long enough for that to happen. Meanwhile, the Dark Eldar have to start cracking away at this terrible Necron bastion to get to the Immortals, the heavy destroyers, and the cryptek inside who might slip away, as he has the recipe for the liquid flesh. Okay, moving on to Dark Eldar turn 3. Okay, so Dark Eldar turn 3. Archon Skari, the Slith, the Urgle, the Lamian, the Incubi, all charged in here after the Cablite warriors killed 7 of his Necron warriors. I've 7 out of 7 failed armor saves. It was just, the poison was too much for the Necron warriors. And I just charged in. The warlord, the Necron warlord, survived with 1 wound left. And he cut down 2 of the Incubi. The witches did finally cut down the last of the Lich Guard, while combined shooting from the Razewing, the Ravager, and the blasters in the Cablite warrior unit, the last blaster in that jetbike unit, and the lance put 10 wounds on the toughness 9 bastion with a 2+ save, because he reinforced the save, which is actually really lucky. It's 10 wounds in, but it still has 10 wounds left and a bunch of guys inside. We're moving on to turn 3 for the Necrons. Killing Warlord is worth a point, so we'll see what happens as we move in to the later stages in the game. Okay, so as the battle enters its final stages, the Necron Immortals got out, split up their fire, put 1 wound on the jet bike, killed 1 of the witches, killed 3 of the Cablite warriors, and then in combat, Anrakir killed the 3 Incubi, dead, including the Klavex, and then the Lamian, taking advantage of him being distracted fighting the Incubi, stabbed him with a poison blade, and he failed both of his armor saves. And then she consolidated towards the Incubi. So we are moving towards Dark Eldar turn 4. And let's see if we can solidify the Planetfall in this turn. But the Necrons are definitely fighting an uphill battle. Of course, being it is their homeworld, they will simply phase out and reappear for Game 2 of the 6-game series, as the Drukhari and the Necrons face off in this narrative. Okay, so turn 4 for the Dark Eldar. The entire Dark Eldar force pushed into the Necron defensive line as they try and defend their Bastion monolith. I did kill 6 of the Immortals with shooting and combat. I did lose my Witch in combat, and I lost 3 wounds on the Raider. But the Lances and shooting took 9 wounds off the Bastion. It's got 1 wound remaining, and it could go thermonuclear. So it is turn 4. Let's see what happens as the Necrons attempt to stem the tide of the Dark Eldar onslaught. Necron turn 4. A couple of the Immortals got back up, but in combat, they're back down to 2, and the Illuminor Caesarus has taken a wound. There's 1 destroyer in the Bastion, manning the heavy bolter guns, and combined shooting put 8 wounds on my Ravager. It is almost dead. Finally, the heavy destroyer is doing some damage. And in combat, my Helion survived that combat against the heavy destroyer and didn't do any damage in return, while my Razorwing did take 4 wounds. So moving on to Dark Eldar turn 5. It's almost all over, but the fat lady's singing as Archon Skari hunts down Illuminor. But the portal is open, so anything, he's probably just going to phase out and go back and prepare an ambush for the Dark Kin. Okay, moving on to turn 5. Okay, so end of turn 4. As the Dark Eldar secure the perimeter to the landing site, Illuminor decides to fall back into the glowing portal of the monolith. As Lance and Blaster Fire blast the monolith into oblivion, it activates. Illuminor steps into the portal, and the monolith slowly dives underground, preventing further damage. Meanwhile, Archon Skari has seen his quarry leave his grasp oh so slightly, and he vows to return, to dig up every last thing he can, as the Necrons have evaded capture. The liquid flesh concoction, the elixir, will still be something he will have to hunt. So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. This is definitely Dark Eldar victory as they secure Planet Strike. But this is the first time John or myself have played Planet Strike. So this has been really entertaining, just to kind of see the dynamic of this narrative style mission. But I'm excited for you to see the rest of the narrative as we move on. So, John, any final words for the game?
As always, good game. I look forward to our next one. Probably would have taken another Bastion.
Okay, fabulous. Yeah, because you can take as many as you like, pretty much, for Planet Strike. So we will. There's 6 different Planet Strike missions. So the way that the campaign is going to work is the loser of the previous game is going to pick the mission for the next game. So we're going to kind of forge the narrative around that. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And I am not allowed, as a winner, I'm not allowed to switch my army. This represents me making my supply lines thin and pressing the advantage as I move deeper into enemy territory, while John's going to be able to switch his army to better counter mine as a defender consolidates their forces and only sends their best troops to face an enemy attack. So this is definitely going to give him a bit of a home advantage as the Dark Eldar dive deeper into enemy territory, but at the same time it could turn the tides and all of a sudden the Necrons might find themselves on the attack to push the Dark Eldar back into space. Other than that, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Make sure you check the links down below for all the cool content and the exclusive Patreon stuff on the Patreon page. Thanks a lot to the patrons. You guys are amazing and allow me to do a whole bunch of stuff like play games and provide content for you guys, which is amazing. This is Skari, your grateful host, signing off. Skari out. It's an exclusive. We're playing the game. Lots of shooting.